Welcome to Rise Up with Rise Growth Partners, the podcast created to inspire wealth advisors and elevate firms, one transformative idea at a time. Joe Duran and the Rise team share hard-won lessons from building top wealth management firms, showing you what it takes to create a lighthouse brand that inspires clients, attracts talent, and fuels growth. Together, we'll look at where the industry is headed so you can stay ahead of the curve. We're here to be the coach we wish we had along our journey. Let's dive in.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm great. Happy to be here for our second episode of Rise Up. And today we're going to zoom out a little bit and look at the industry as a whole and this trend that has emerged in recent years around these mega firms. And you wrote an intriguing article about it with a title called What We Can Learn from the Three Little Pigs.
Yeah. Well, look, hey, first of all, we'll talk about the Three Little Pigs in a second, but we should just talk about what this really is about, which is everyone now, because organic growth has become so difficult, because the market is saturated with wealth advisors and there aren't that many new clients coming in. Everyone now has gotten into consolidation or aggregation or acquisition or inorganic growth. And so it's become a big thing. And I see different ways of doing it. And I use the Three Little Pigs because I think it's a great analogy, which I always love, by the way, about being lazy and doing it fast or taking slower and building quality, using bricks versus using straw or wood. And interestingly enough, there are three different kinds of models in the acquisition space. And that's firms from $1 billion all the way to $100 billion. They're different strategies, but they're all employing one of three strategies to do acquisitions. And I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of each, most especially in the lasting value of the enterprise. And I really think if you're going to win as an independent advisor, you can't be short-term greedy. You have to be long-term greedy. And that might mean some sacrifices to the choices you make. We certainly see it all as firms that, as an investor, we get to explore and see all of these different firms. And I thought it'd be useful for us to just share, if you're going to be doing acquisitions, how you should be thinking about and the pros and cons of each.
Sounds good. So let's start with these three houses you came up with. Can you walk us through them?
So the house made of straw is the affiliation model. What is the affiliation model? It's a set of advisors who join an enterprise, sometimes in the same brand, but never have actually selling their clients. So it's kind of, we see it certainly a lot in the brokerage business, the OSJs who have advisors join them as 1099s. They might share the brand. They might share common back office, but they can leave whenever they want and take their clients with them. That's the affiliation model. Lots of firms in that model, certainly in the wirehouse world, in the independent broker-dealer world. We're seeing it increasingly in the RIA world. They basically look like OSJs, but they're not licensed individuals. They're just RIAs. The second, I call the quasi-integrator. It looks like it's integrated. They share the same name. All the advisors have joined the new firm as a W-2 employee, but they do not deliver a consistent client experience. The local office might do a totally unique planning style. The local office might have their own investment methodologies. The local office might have its own story that they tell the clients. And so while they share the same name, while they are all W-2 employees and have non-solicits and non-competes, the underlying client experience is completely different or very untethered. Mm-hmm. That is the fastest growing part of the business, by the way. That is the one, I call it the house of wood. It's the one that looks good, but it feels substantial. But as soon as the wolf comes and blows wind, guess what? You don't have anything. Right. And I don't want to point to any firms in particular, but I assure you, certainly in the $5 to $10 billion world, that's as fast as growing. And why is that the case? Because the private equity firms don't know the difference between one and the other. To them, the wood looks as substantial as the brick because they have the same name. They're all W-2 employees. What's the difference? And the difference between a house of wood and what I'll call a fully integrated firm, the house of brick, is that the end client knows what they're going to get. And those differences are the differences between building perpetual lasting value or building a scheme that basically is, can I get somebody else to come and play a 20, 25 times multiple for something that's really not worth that? And I'll explain in a second why when we talk about what drives value in our industry. But that's the thing that you need to think about. And if you're giving up your business to get equity in one of these enterprises, it really matters that you're getting a house of brick, because you're selling your life's work. In the first case, you're not selling anything. So you're renting a platform. Doesn't matter. It's nice if they have a good platform, but if you're not happy, you can leave and take your clients. And there's switching costs, but they're not mortal. The second one is very expensive because you've got to now leave. You've got to negotiate an exit. And if the underlying business brings in advisors that operate in ways that are different than you, or you're not happy with how they operate, or they tell you they're going to let you operate independently, but now they're going to force you to do what they want you to do, now that's a much harder thing because leaving is very difficult. But if you've given up your equity to own equity in the enterprise, and the enterprise is not a high quality business, then you're getting equity at a very high multiple for a business that's not worth a very high multiple. And you end up paying the price.
Right.
So that's the challenge.
That fully integrated model, while attractive, it is a heavy lift.
It's a lot of work.
Everyone bought in, and it's a lot of change and a lot of work.
Look, and I can share just my own experience at United Capital. We were obsessive about it. We're like, look, we're going to build the Navy. We're not a collection of pirates. But there are three things that why we did it, because we did this when we built the prior business as well that we sold to GE. First, there are three things that drive lasting value in the wealth business. The first one is that clients receive a consistent brand experience. And why does that matter? Because it allows for you to deliver consistent, large-scale, organic strategies across the nation. If I know, no matter what office you walk into, you're going to have the same experience, I can do partnerships with the custodians and with centers of influence and know that the same strategy can work, maybe with different accents, but with the same delivery. When we make a promise on our website and build trust and do digital campaigns, it doesn't matter what office you go to, I know what I'm going to get. And that's the number one marker of a great brand. It makes a promise and delivers it consistently over and over again. That's a big marker for valuation. That's why Apple is worth so much more than many other tech firms. It's just knowing what you're going to get over and over again. Number two, if you're able to everyone deliver the same thing, well, what's true? You get the advantages of scale because you're able to negotiate and with all your vendors because everybody's on the same platform. So you can get better negotiating with your planning software and better negotiating with your CRM and better negotiating with your investment solutions because you have scale and size, which allows you to negotiate in a better way and improve your margins. And that is ultimately growth and margins, which are A and B, the two things we've talked about, obviously make you more valuable. And then clients are more able to give you referrals because they know no matter where you go, you're going to have the same experience, right? You go to a Ritz-Carlton, you know exactly what you're getting, no matter where in the world you go. And so you're very confident knowing what you're going to get and makes you great brands shorten the trust cycle. And then lastly, really important, your risk profile is lower because if the advisor leaves, you can plug in another advisor to replace everything that the advisor does. And while that doesn't feel good if you sold to that business and you're the advisor, it's really good for the equity you took. So you need these three pillars if you're going to build a house of brick: a consistent client experience, a business model that can take advantage of scale because everyone's delivering the same experience, and lastly, a reduced risk profile because everybody does the same thing and you have your own unique way of doing it, but it reduces the risk profile, which makes your discount rate low, which makes your multiple higher. And those three things are how you get the highest possible multiple, whether you're selling to one of these firms, joining one of these firms, or building one of these firms as the acquirer. Those things. Now, of course, as you said, it's hard work.
Really hard work. And I'm thinking about those firms, say 3 to 10 billion RIA, the leadership teams that is looking at these mega firms and thinking, can I feel confident that I can continue to compete? What advice would you give those leadership
The answer
team?
is, if all you're doing is buying a bunch of independent advisors and letting them continue to do what they do under your brand, you are not building something that is going to have a premium multiple down the road. Because at the end of the day, 5-6 years from now, when you've grown to 20 or 30 billion, the firms we're partnering with, we're looking to make into billion-dollar brands. And they're all involved in some way or shape or form in their acquisition business. If they're not, we're teaching them how to do it. But we're only doing it under these 3 constraints. And why is that? Because think about it 5 years from now. When you go raise capital at $1 billion valuation, if you want to get a multiple north of 20, these 3 things must be true. And then, or you'll still get to $1 billion, but you're going to have to be a lot bigger to get there. If you have these 3 things, you don't have to be as big to get the higher price because you get a higher multiple. And if you choose to sell entirely to one of these big national platforms, there'll be several of them that will have $500 billion or more in the next 5 years. The Creative Plannings, the Fisher, these firms will all be at $500 billion or more, I suspect. They're going to want to buy great brands that have a great niche, that are consistently delivering a consistent experience. And that's another choice to increase the competition for your recap whenever you go do it. Now, again, it's hard work. It's helpful that myself and Terry have done this a few times, but it's also thoughtful, careful. It means that instead of being able to do 1 in 3 transactions, you'll only be able to do 1 in 10 because you're going to care more about cultural fit. You're going to care more about buy into what you're doing. You're going to have to spend more money on your client experience, but it's worth it ultimately because you're building something that's built to last. And that is core what this whole story is about. Build something you can be proud of that's built to last. So even if you don't do the transaction, it is a great business.
And today we haven't really talked that much about clients, but it's better for clients.
It's
obviously
so much better for clients because they know what they're getting and they don't have the risk of, if my advisor leaves, I'm toast.
Great. Anything else you'd like to share?
No, we're excited for our next article. Hopefully you enjoyed this. By the way, any comments or thoughts, please feel free to send us notes. We're happy to add and have a dialogue about all of this. And any topics you'd like us to cover for the next episode, please let us know. Thank you. And
thank you.
And good luck for the coming end of season, end of holidays.
Yes. Thanks, Joe. Have a good one. Look forward to seeing everyone next time.
You too.
You are listening to Rise Up with Rise Growth Partners. If we helped you to rise up today, please subscribe to the show so you don't miss future episodes. Leave us a review to tell us what you loved, what topics you'd like to hear, and please share it with others in the industry. After all, we're here to rise up together.